which will take place more or less here in the middle. And you don't see a fancy setup here, such as the other students, but we do have a project here, and it's by David Hahlbrock, which he made for his graduation of audiovisual media at the Academy of Media Arts in Cologne. Before that, David also studied contemporary history and architecture and art history at the University of Berlin. But his art focuses on temporary site-specific urban interventions and installations, of which his graduation work is actually a typical example. David?
Okay, good evening. The work I will present tonight is Transit Garden 2. It's one part of a series of transit gardens which started as a recherche. I first will talk about my work in general. I work in general with conceptual works that deal with nature conceptions in landscape and architecture as my surrounding, or the landscape that is surrounding me is most of the time the city. I work a lot in the urban landscape, and that's where that project takes place as well. I didn't really install the project inside that exhibition space. The project takes out outside in the streets, so I installed some of the transit gardens at the street light right in front of V2. Yeah, I think I don't have much to say because transit garden is an easy concept. These are balls with an artificial soil inside, which makes them very light. I have a magnet attached to them, and I said I didn't want to do, but I do as well. You can throw them up in the city to metal structures, and yeah, then they are sticking to metal structures. Yeah, we prepared, so I don't have much more to say about Transit Garden without a question. We prepared those little bags. There are magnets and grass seeds inside, and if you want, you can take them home. And if you still remember, when you walk out, you can have a look on the opposite side of the street. There you'll see some of my transit garden too. So if there are there any questions?
Well, first, thank you for the demo. Yeah, we're certainly going to have a look at the things hanging outside so we can basically see them in the right context. So everyone leaving the building, please have a look at the lamppost on the opposite side of the street. I was also wondering, because I saw some of your photo documentation of you doing, I think it was in Berlin, the balls. And I was wondering, did people pick up on it? Like, did people start producing them themselves, or did they steal yours, or...
In general, I never saw one I didn't make, so I don't know if people make them. People recognize them. Of course, they recognize them rarely. They're not very loud. They're not very obvious. Mostly children recognize them while walking through the known streets. And once I made it in Cologne when there was carnival, then I attached some in a reachable height, and they have been away immediately, but I don't know, more for costume reason or more for sticking them to metal structures.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the audience in the meantime? Over there, Caesar?
I'm asking too many questions. What happens mutually to end the metal and the plant? Does the grass like being growing on metal, and does the metal structure rust, or what's the collateral effect?
I never had an experiment that took so long that I could see, yeah, like rusty steel because of the humidity of the plants. Normally the plants grow, the grass becomes longer and grows down, and it depends on the weather and on the time of the year how long the transit garden stays. But the transitory aspect is also in the duration of their existence.
Yeah, I was also wondering about what happens to the plants when they die, because it seems that you're trying to do good to your environment, but then when they die, what is left is a magnet. And
I think I have to step in. My motivation is not to do good, and those, yeah, I mean, they're filled with a synthetic substrate, so they're not as natural in a way, or in a conservative classification. like they seem. So yeah, I just hang them. For me, it's much about that gesture to jump in the city and throw the ball to a metal structure. It's about yeah, it's about gardening in the city, the garden in the city, the role of the park, the role of a green ball in the park. My work is always multi-layered and yeah, maybe questions existing concepts of nature. So I don't want to lay weight on one. It's not about good and bad, and not about ecology or not ecology. It's more about the city and its gardens.
Okay. Well, that kind of distinguishes your approach from the more like, let's say, the guerrilla gardeners that are really trying to make their neighborhood better or nicer. So, okay, because one of my questions was also whether this community was very responsive to your idea of the transit garden and the balls.
Yes, of course. I often hear the word. Guerrilla gardening, but and of course there are strong parallels just in the way that you throw something and that you attach some green to the city which isn't planted by the city council and which isn't on a private ground. But I don't have that political intention that much in it. Of course, I have my personal political intention dealing with the world, but I don't proclaim a kind of way for others with that work. It's my gesture in the city, and of course it deals with contexts. So I hope it's also the context of people around me, walking in the same landscape.
Okay.
With this last remark, well, I was thinking of graffiti artist, because the last 3 sentences you said also a graffiti artist could say. And is that something then that you want to relate to? If you don't want to relate to the guerrilla gardening and the political thing, is it more like just tagging, or is that something you relate to? Or
no, it's not attacking. Of course, there are relations to graffiti culture to add your creative output in the city in public spaces without asking for permissions. But that's also not the motivation to do a kind of green.
But what
graffiti.
is the motivation then?
Yeah, as I said, it's my artistic gesture in the city, and my attachment to the city, my part of creating the city. Because
your influence also on the city.
Yeah, I think the city is formed by the inhabitants and their behavior, and by the buildings of the inhabitants or of the planners as well. And it's just my part of it.
And this plant, is there a specific choice why you choose this kind of plant?
Yeah, of course, there are several reasons. One, of course, it's a technical reason. Grass grows with the roots like a textile, so I soothe them with wire. I can make that round ball, but the ball thing also comes from a broad research I do for all my work, and there's a big part is parks and gardening in the city, and there it relates to. And then it's just usual grass you can find in every park, on every football field. I buy them in the periphery of the city. They cut it away in rectangle sheets. And
oh, okay, yeah. So that's how you get it.
Yeah.
Is there also, do you have a manual online or something that I can build it myself? Is that something you would?
Yeah, I think those bags are that's what we discussed before, and I think in these bags there are. Or there's a magnet.
Oh, that's the whole manual.
There's a magnet and some seeds. Wait, maybe this becomes now a bit difficult. So it's without sound. So in the bags there are seeds and a small magnet. It's nearly the size of a seed. And this is about the principles of my work, I think, for Transit Garden 2. I just combined the magnet with the plant, and that's Transit Garden 2. For me, it shows everything. If somebody wants to know how they made, I'm open to tell, but it's not part of the work to show how to build them like a gesture. Everybody can do this.
That's
of
not
course,
something you want, because I
no,
would
it's
like
not
it.
something
I mean,
I don't want.
No?
If people do, people can
You
do,
just don't
but
care.
I don't motivate them to do.
yeah, I think it would be nice if people would build these things themselves, and maybe also in all kinds of different weeds and maybe flowers even, that you can tag the city with your certain style of flower. Maybe that's too romantic of me. I don't know.
No, I mean, it's your romanticism.
Yeah,
so
right.
It's
yeah.
okay if
Yeah,
you
I
want
can
to
get
do this,
my
buy
romanticism
some
if I
magnets
want
and a
to.
flower.
Yeah.
So I think it's very easy to realize, and yeah, in all my work I mostly try to motivate people to think. So if you think about it, for me it's enough. If you want to build it, do it. So I'm okay.
Okay. Well, thank you, David.